everyone is happy and healthy, and you are all ready to learn some new fabulous things. Okay, and really you're not learning new things. We've already gone over this. This is just more practice. So the first thing I want you to do is make sure you've logged into DeltaMath, and you are going to be clicking on the Interpret Linear Function Coefficients from an equation. That's the top one. Now, there are three different types of questions I want you to see. So there are going to be ones that ask for the slope of the function. There are going to be question types that are going to ask you for the y-intercept. So you're going to see it's going to say, what is the y-intercept of the function? And then there's going to be questions that ask you for the x-intercept. And so it's each one of these are going to be looked at similarly, but kind of differently. So this video is going to explain how to do each one. So the first thing you have to do is figure out which part of this video do I need to be watching. So again, you're looking at these keywords here. Each one of these questions can look the same except for this particular piece. So look at which it is asking for before you get started. We're going to start with the y-intercept. So when you look at this, I want you to skip all of the words. Don't read any of the words, okay? Don't read any of the words. I want you to look at the equation. So when I'm looking at the equation, literally just focused, who cares what's going on? I want you to remember that with each equation that they give us, the number that is with the variable, so in this case it's 225, is always, 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 always the slope. The number that is by itself is always the y-intercept, and the letter we use for the y-intercept is the letter B, because that's where the line begins. So as you're interpreting this particular problem, you know automatically that this, whatever the C is, begins at 700, and then because this is a positive 225, it's going to go up 225 every whatever the P is. So without even reading the problem, I know that it starts at 700 and it goes up 225 each P. Well, what are the C and the P then? Well, that's what the rest of the problem is about. So at that point, then you zoom out. So now I have to read the rest of the problem. And the rest of the problem says that she's in a business where C is the total cost in dollars of producing P phones. So what we're saying is the total cost, C is the total cost, and that it starts at $700, but then it increases, it goes up $225 per phone. How did I know that? Because it says P stands for phones. How did I know it was a total cost? It says total cost, which is the C. So it begins at 700 and it increases $225 per phone. So now I have to go back down to the y-intercept of the function. So we've already talked about which one of these numbers is the slope and which is the y-intercept. Well, correct, the y-intercept is 700. And this talks about where it begins, where the cost begins, the initial setup fee, the cost to get started. So is that the number of days? No. Is it the total cost to produce all of the phones? No, that's only, like, this is without any phones being created. It costs $700. Is it the additional cost for each phone? Well, no, that's $225. Is it the fixed cost for rent and equipment? Well, I'm sure she has to pay that before she can start building phones, so that makes sense. Made in a day? Well, no, that's what P is. So that's going to be my correct answer. So again, let's see another problem very quickly. So I don't look at this. I simply look at the equation. And remember, the number that's with the variable is the slope. So which number is with the variable? The negative 1.5. The other number is the b, where it starts. So this particular equation, it starts at 15 and it goes down 1.5 every t. So it starts at 15 and it goes down 1.5 each t. Well, 15 what? That's when we go back and we read the problem. And it says the length of the candle in inches. So the candle starts at 15 inches and it goes down 1.5 inch per t. And the t represents the number of hours. So our candle starts at 15 inches and it goes down 1.5 inches every hour. That kind of makes sense. So we were talking about questions that start with the y-intercept. So this would be the y-intercept. I don't want to break the computer again. Then the function would be 15, which is the starting length of the candle, or the length of the candle before it was lit, or that particular information. Let's see what the original length of a new candle. Okay, now that is the first type of question when it asks you for the y-intercept. The second kind of question is when it asks you for the slope. And here we've already determined that the slope is the number that's next to the variable. So what number is next to the variable? Negative 1.5. It's not 1.5, it's negative 1.5. And we've already discussed that this is saying that the candle goes down. So this is the number of inches that it burns per hour. So when it talks about slope, one of the things that you should pay attention to is look for the words each or the words per. Slope is a rate of change, and so there's always going to be inches per hour. It could be dollars per hour, dollars per computer, dollars per phone. It's always going to compare two things because that's what a slope does. So number of inches that burns per hour. Let's get a new problem. So again, oh wait, that's a y-intercept. Okay, the third kind of question is this, where it asks for the x-intercept. So for the y-intercept and for the slope, it gives us that information in the equation. So if we're looking at this particular equation, I know that it starts at 240 and it goes down 60 each whatever time it is, whatever t is. So 240 tells me how far away I started, because it says it's the distance, and t is hours. So I know that I'm getting 60 miles closer every t hours, because I started 240 miles away. So I'm getting 60 miles closer every t hours. Now, here's the thing with this question. It's asking for the x-intercept. The easiest way to do this is to graph this equation. And we're going to figure out what the x-intercept is. You could always just solve this equation. However, it's a lot easier to just graph it. So if you go to Desmos Graphing Calculator instead of D, we're going to say that the y equals, and then you type in the equation. So it was negative 60x, t, doesn't matter if you put t, plus 240. And you may need to zoom in or zoom out to see where your line crosses the x-axis. But when you roll your cursor over the top, you can see that it crosses the x-axis at 4. So when it says the x-intercept, the easiest way to do this is to graph it. And this is going to be the answer, which is 4. So D is the distance. We started out at 240 miles away. We get 60 miles closer each hour. So what is this for? Well, what is the x-axis? The x label is for, what's the label? Hours. So this is the number of hours. The total time in hours. So again, the easiest way to do the ones that ask for the x-intercept is to open up your graphing calculator, type in the equation, figure out what the x-axis is, and then remember, then you're going to go back to the problem and look for the label for the x-axis. The label for the x, or the label for the t, is going to be hours. So I know that this is going to be in hours. Did I say anything about the miles per hour? No, that's a speed. That's going to be a rate. Does it talk about the gallons of gas? No. Does it talk about money? No. It is just simply in hours. Let's do 2 more. So again, this particular problem starts at 15 and it goes down 1.5 per t, which t is time in hours. So this one is snow and how much it's melting. So it started at 15 and it goes down 1.5 inches every hour. So where did it start? Where did it begin? Which is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is always the b. It is 15, and that's what the height of the snow started at the end of the storm. Let's do another one that's slope, just so you can see. Okay, this one says slope, and so when we're looking at this problem, we know that the number that's the slope is the one that's with the variable. So 1.75 t stands for months. So it started at 6 pounds and it goes up 1.75 pounds each month. That's what this equation is saying, is that it started at 6 pounds and it went up 1.75 pounds each month. Started at 6 pounds, went up 1.75 pounds each month. So the slope is the number with the variable, the 1.75, and it is the pounds. Pay attention, this one's per week, this one's per month. And let's try one more x-intercept. Okay, as a reminder, for whenever it says x-intercept, you have to graph it using Desmos. So I'm going to do y equals negative 25x plus 100. Y equals negative 25x plus 100. Now where did the line cross? It crossed at 4. That means that my x-intercept is 4. So what it started with is that she borrowed money, and so she owed her friend $100. She's paying back her friend $25 each week. So what is the label for t, our x-axis? It is weeks. So when I say that it's 4, it means that it's going to be 4 weeks until she pays back her friend. Is it the amount of money paid back? No, she pays back $25. It is the number of weeks until the loan is paid off. Okay, The other problems are with a graph. Okay, when it's in a graph, it's very simple. I think it's very simple. Okay, looking at this, we're not going to read the paragraph at the top. We're always going to look, where does our line start, and we're going to type that in. Every single time, the first thing I want you to do is figure out, where does the line cross the y-axis, and type that in. Now, is this line going up or is this line going down? Well, if it's going up, I want you to put a plus sign. If it's going down, I want you to put a minus sign. Pretty simple, right? Yep. All right, then you have to find the slope. As a reminder, we know many ways how to find the slope, but you draw a line here and here. Now, when you count this box, this isn't 1 because we're not counting by ones. What are we counting by? We're counting by tens. So we are going down 10 to the right 1, which is why we had a negative slope. And you cannot forget your variable. If you look here, though, we're not going to use x. We have to use the variable that's here, which is a lowercase t. So the first thing you're going to do for these is always just write the equation. Now, then you answer the questions just like we did before, where, okay, what's the slope? This one is not 10, it is negative 10. And it's how much it goes down each week. Let's try a new one. So again, you always start with where it crosses the y-axis. So you're going to type in 240. Now this line, does it go up or does it go down? It goes down, so it's going to be minus. And then you have to do your slope. This is 20, 40, 60 over 2. Is 30. And you can't put in x, you have to use the variable that's there, which would be a t. Then you go through and answer the questions. The y-intercept is 240, which is where, what is the y-intercept? It's the distance to city A. Okay, so again, you start with the point where it crosses. So we start with 50. Is the line going up or is the line going down? It is going up. Now, you could try and guess what this point is. I think that's not a good idea. They've given you this point. So remember, we always go up and down and then to the right, and it goes up 10, 20, 30. It's a bad 3, sorry. Divided by 4. Now, you should probably use a scientific calculator. Desmos. 30 divided by 4, and you change it to a fraction, 15 halves. So plus, so it's 50 plus 15 halves, and you have to pay attention to what this variable is. It will count it wrong if you do not put the correct variable that's here. So if this says p and you don't put p, it'll count it wrong. Now the slope is 15 halves. And then remember, it's always change in y over change in x. Change in y is the daily pay per computer sold. The daily pay per computer sold. Is that per computer sold? No, it's going to be the commission she makes for each computer sold. And they've written it in a different way. They've chosen to use a decimal format, and that's okay because we have always said we're going to use it as a fraction, and it gave you the exact same answer, gave you the exact same credit. So that is how you do these. If it asks you for the x-intercept instead of the y-intercept, you just have to look where it crosses to find the answer, just like before. So make sure you get this done.